Welcome back to BSLIVE. Today I'm gonna check out this LuxCore Render, basically another render engine for Blender. It's available free, open source, and it's a physically based rendering similar to Octane and maybe similar to Cycles. So basically, yeah, you download the add-on first of all, and this LuxCore Render, the latest one, version 2.5, should work with Blender 2.92. Doesn't work with the 2.93 yet, but you can download the latest build available for 2.93. I'm using iMac M1 and I think 2.92 version should work. So this is Blender 2.92 and the preference LuxCore, you can see here 2.5. It's actually using Apple N1. Okay. All right, so let's take a look. First of all, turn on LuxCore Render Engine, and by default it's using CPU. And let's try the basic setup. We have floor. We're gonna assign a material. Maybe there's a Disney shader. Maybe use matte for the floor, and we're gonna use the monkey head. Very quickly, just rotate it. You can control 2 and make it smooth. Right click, shade smooth, or you can have both monkey. With the other one you can use bevel and then smooth. So you can see how different they look. And I will give a new material, maybe metallic, or actually glossy, and this one's gonna be glass. Okay, save this very quickly. LuxCore demo. I've only used this for a day, and LuxCore actually have lots of tutorial. If you look at the documentations under tutorial, there is one YouTube channel with lots of videos about LuxCore. I'm gonna show you very quickly. So this one from Dravia Studio, highly recommended. Better watch that first maybe, but I'm just gonna show you something. So LuxCore, by default, what happens if you render on the viewport, it's gonna look like this. This is the default, right? Nothing special, but like any other render engine, you want to know how to use things like sky, HDRI, flat color, or no light. This is the world setup for LuxCore. So it's physically based. As you can see, it's rendering and then suddenly it stops. And it's actually doing denoiser by default. This is actually a setting that's under here, viewport render. By default, it's using CPU. I think it's CPU of M1. And also we have denoiser. After 10 seconds, it's gonna do the denoiser. And you can see now, magically, we have super clean image. Okay. Yeah, this is the default. Okay, nothing much, nothing less. It's just very easy to use and very simple. We have sky with some attributes and properties that we can modify. The cool thing about LuxCore also, okay, it's still rendering. I will, for example, create a sunlight, and if I assign this sunlight into the sky, you're gonna have something that's similar to Cycles. So now suddenly the sunlight is controlling the sky. Okay, so that's one thing to know. And also with LuxCore, because it's physically based, unbiased render, it's gonna do the rendering actually indefinitely if you set it up to do that. By default, it's gonna halt after 10 seconds. There's this halt conditions that you can set up when you're doing rendering as well. And this denoiser, I don't have optics denoiser. I don't have NVIDIA graphic card, so it's not using optics, it's using OEDN. But yeah, so do you notice something that's missing? It's actually the caustic. With LuxCore, we can turn on the caustic very easily, surprisingly easy, simply by turning on light tracing. You can see we already have caustic happening. This is quite cool features. And if you want to adjust the material very quickly, I haven't made any adjustment. If we select an object, look at the material, we don't see the attributes. We can look at it under preview, but in order to see the material attributes, you need to enable LuxCore material nodes, and now we can see the shader editor. You can also click here, show nodes, select show nodes. So for example, I want to pay attention here with the glass materials. I can change the color. You can see the caustic is pink material. The caustic is the refocusing of light that goes through the material. It's looking so beautiful. This is the glossy material, so it's like metal. Okay, I think glossy material is sometimes looking a little bit like plastic. The floor is just matte material. I can use the texture, Blender texture or LuxCore texture, like maybe like marble. I haven't checked everything, but so far I just noticed that the caustic is looking beautiful, and also this, look at this marble procedural texture is also looking really beautiful. And if we stop that, if we make this a bit smaller like that, if we enable the render while it's rendering, if I adjust the light, you can see the caustic is actually super fast. It's gonna adjust the caustic effects. I did a render earlier last night, LuxCore caustic. Okay, where is it? Did I delete it? Wow. That's weird. Huh, weird, it's disappeared. Okay, don't worry about that. But anyway, this is the, you can see the caustics looking beautiful. And with the caustic, there's this options. There's a cool material options with LuxCore dispersion. You can see here the coefficients for dispersion. If you add a bit of value here, you're gonna have like a rainbow color on the caustic, just a small value. For example, 0.08. You can see it's no longer red. It has a bit of rainbow color. I haven't tested everything. There's also thin film coating. So with a bit of film, the glass is a bit like a Octane Render actually. Film thickness we can adjust. This is the glossy material. If I get rid of glossy material and if I try matte translucent, we have like a, I think it's kind of like subsurface scattering material, like a skin color. Let's try texture 2D checker, plug into transmission. Should look a bit of like skin. Let me try something else very quickly. Okay, glass, and let's turn on sphere chop. Okay, with sphere chop, even though this is Blender 2.92, we can use sphere chop. Let's try just making like a torus node. This is my favorite view. polyline viewer, plug the vertices in. This is a procedural node creations. Yeah, let's make something very quickly. Bring this up a little bit. Turn on cyclic. We have two Suzanne. Let's make them facing each other. So one is beveled Suzanne, one is smooth Suzanne. They're under this kind of torus. Cool. All right. So this we can merge together. We can use another glass material. There's also this Disney principles. Maybe I can try using it. Glass material. Let's give it like different color. Back to sphere chop. This is material number 4. Let's assign it here as well. So the light, yeah, we have tried the sky texture. It's looking really nice. What else can we try? Let's try this. Let's add solidify modifier here for the floor, so it's looking a little bit more complete. I don't know. Let's try sphere, mesh viewer, vector, P field, merge together. This is sphere. So just random sphere. Random number. Four by 4 by 3, 16, 48. Okay, 48. Move this up. Okay, maybe this can be orange. Assign another glass material. I really like the glass material with LuxCore Render. It's looking faceted. Back to sphere chop. Just enable smoothness here. Should be on by default. Again, sunlight material. It's probably a little bit too red. Yeah, okay, green. So one thing really interesting, there's a lot of special feature of LuxCore. View, align active camera to view. I want to see this through the camera. And also back to sphere chop. I don't like how it's on top of Suzanne like that. Let's just bring it up. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more complete now. I can render this out. So with the camera being selected, there is this option like vignetting. We can do vignetting, which actually should work if you render this out. There's also tone mapper, bloom. If we render this out, by the way, currently so far we only look at this from the viewport rendering using CPU, and there's this denoiser. If I turn this on and with the sampling, because this is LuxCore, we need to have like halt conditions. We can stop the rendering after a certain time, for example 10 seconds, or use a sample number. For example, use sample 200. If we render this out, during the rendering, you can already see we have like a vignetting happening. Caustic is working. Might be a little bit dark. we need to adjust the light, but the sampling is running. So when it hits 200, it's gonna stop rendering, and supposedly the denoising will kicks in. So far, if I'm not wrong, the denoise doesn't work if you are rendering on a Mac somehow. I mean, on the 3D view it works fine. Let's don't worry about this for now. Actually use time 10 seconds. I will try again anyhow. So let's take a look. So we have these options like using flat color. This is flat color. We still have the light from the sun. Since this is a flat color, maybe I can turn this sun into just a spotlight. And since this is a spotlight, I want this spotlight to look at an object. I can use object constraint and track to maybe one of Suzanne. So we have spotlight now. I can increase the gain. And I can reduce this. You can see the caustics working. Maybe this spotlight is too weak. Okay, now it's too strong, 200. I think tone mapping is already kind of working. Oh, okay, occasionally we have that crashing with LuxCore, but overall with LuxCore, I think it's a pretty stable and easy to use renderer compared to others. Renderman, Octane, each one of them has its own way of working, and the look also looks different. But LuxCore, if you, I'm just gonna leave it rendering. If you look at the example from the gallery, LuxCore is actually really good for realistic render, like for objects, interior design, architectural. Yeah, for character also, not for stylized, but for cartoony, realistic, like stop motions. I might actually try that because LuxCore is looking so realistic and beautiful. I think it's potentially we can use this to create like a stop motion animations. Yeah, so that's flat color render. We can turn it off completely. We can set up using temperature, HDRI as usual. We can use our own HDRI, like a studio HDRI, and just simply apply it. Let's say if you want to use like a metallic material on this character, on Suzanne. Yeah, it's looking exactly like metal. So metal looks like metal, glass looking beautiful like glass with a caustic and everything. I think this is quite a powerful render. And it is also open source and free to use. With Renderman, it's also free if it's not commercial. With Octane, you can use Octane X, which is kind of free on Mac, but it's kind of keep on crashing because I'm still using the beta version. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see if we can improve this a little bit more. Denoise time. Let me show you something. I think the render is working fine. The vignette looking nice. I give like a halt condition of 10 seconds. So I think it's doing the denoising and it stops. It doesn't work somehow. But on the preview here it's working. I don't know why. Maybe it's a bug. Let's try halt time of 30. If I use GPU and M1, actually, you will see it's doing compiling, or it's rendering using the GPU, so I don't know if this is any faster or not. I found that using the CPU is actually faster, but the denoising might be working fine in this case. I set the halt time to 30. Okay, denoiser is working now. So in general, if you are doing like rendering, you know, like glass, material, fabric, all the physically based material, this is really beautiful render engine to do that sort of things. If I'm not wrong, LuxCore also supply you with some library. This is using the GPU. You can see it's a little bit weird, huh? So maybe just use a CPU and do another render. Even on a 3D viewport, you can see some kind of vignetting, so it's not too bad. It's gonna wait for 30 seconds. It's gonna halt. It's gonna stop rendering, and denoiser is kicking. You can actually set it up so it's continue to render for hours or maybe overnight until you have like a single beautiful render. So it's really good to render like a still image. Should work for animation as well, but the denoise doesn't work with my render. Okay, so that's the result. A bit soft maybe, but not too bad. And I want to show you one more thing with this LuxCore. There's this option like donations, license, assets bar. I haven't tried this. Yeah, you get all sort of thing, the assets that you can bring in. Somehow on the Mac seems to be really slow. Somehow it makes my computer really slow. I drag in the assets. Maybe I'm expecting it to work, but can you see anything here? No. Yeah, but anyhow, I like how they have this like example assets that you can try, and they're really beautiful, like for interior. I don't know. I think this should just work. Maybe I need to subscribe for it to work. Yeah, I just want to let you know. Other than that, I will spend a bit of time with LuxCore, maybe if I have anything else to talk about. But so far, really, the one that works nicely is the Caustics. Where's my render? It disappeared somehow. Oh well. Anyhow, yeah, caustic glass metal looks beautiful when you render it using LuxCore. It's an easy, intuitive render engine to use. Definitely recommend it if you wanna do like this kind of render. Alright, so hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.